Then we have analyzing indicators of malicious activity. So this your knowledge of this or your knowledge of or your ability to analyze indicators of malicious activity will also be tested in domain 2 of CompTIA Security. So, and when we're talking about indicators of malicious activities, we are talking about malware attacks, which include ransomware, Trojan, worm, spyware, bloatware. All these are malicious activities that you should be able to analyze and spot. For example, a bloatware is a software that is running in the background. When you are not making use of the software is still making use of processes, carrying out updates, doing things in the background that you are not aware of. Is a bloatware. Most of the time, this bloatware is consuming resources and then making the system to work excessively or carry out things that is not supposed to carry out. This is a bloatware. So these are indicators of malicious activity. So when you are using a system and you suddenly notice that operations or background processes are running by a particular application, these are indicators of malicious activities, and then it means a malware attack is going on. A virus is an example of malware. Keylogger is when an application is capturing or is recording all the things you are pressing, all the things you are using, you are carrying out on your keyboard. Every keystroke is being logged. This is a malicious activity and it's usually a sign of a malware attack. Then we have the logic bomb. Logic bomb is basically an application or is a code that is going to take action when certain conditions are being fulfilled. So a logic bomb can lie in your system for a long time until the condition set in the logic is fulfilled. Then the attack doesn't happen. So this is an indicator of also malicious activities. When a malware is present, a malware can, when you have logic bugs, an example of malware attack or malicious activities. Then we have the rootkit. Rootkit are programs or codes running within the root with root permissions. So these are indicators of malware. Then we have physical attacks. So what are the indicators of physical attacks? When you see brute forcing, I mean trying different combination of password and usernames. We have the radio frequency identification. These are examples of physical attacks, or these are examples of malicious activities that can point to a physical attack. Then we have environmental. So things going on within the environment can be a pointer to uh, physical attack. These are all indicators of malicious activities that can lead to a physical attack. Then we have network attacks. Malicious activities under network attacks include distributed denial of service, which means causing your service or your device or your system or your network to be unavailable. Then we have the amplified DDoS, and then we have the reflected. These are different types of net denial of service attacks. Then we have the domain name system attack, DNS attacks. These are when your domain name is finding it difficult to resolve or is pointing to a different domain when you are searching, you are going on carrying out network on your network system is pointing to the wrong domain. These are all indicators of malicious activity. It shows that something is causing this DNS to be misbehaving or to be performing wrong DNS resolution. These are all indicators. Then we have the wireless, malicious activity when we have on-part attack, credential replay. These are all indicators of malicious activity. Credential replay is simply talking about making use of a credential that is captured. When an hacker captures a credential from a particular session and then is using it to connect to a different a session without the knowledge or the authorization of the previous users. This is a credential replay. That means the credential has been captured and then the hacker is reusing the credential. So these are indicators of network attacks. These are malicious activities that are indicating a network attack. Then we have malicious code. Then we have applications attacks. So under application attacks, malicious activities include things like injection, buffer overflow, replay. I've mentioned buffer overflow before, and I've also talked about replay. Then privilege escalation. When the privilege escalation is going on. That means an application is being able to is having the privilege of accessing, yeah, data that it is beyond its privilege, or is beyond its authorization, or its level of authorization. These are privilege escalation. So these are all indicators of malicious activity. Forgery, directory traversal. Directory traversal means you are having access to it's usually common with the web, on the web, and it means that someone can access data that are outside the root folder. So if a website is supposed to have access to certain folders within the web server, and then from the website you can move from that folder that is meant for the web and move into other folders on the web server that are supposed to be restricted. So is a directory traversal is an example of, is an activity. So if you check your website and you discover that via your website or via your web page, you can carry out a directory traversal, it's an indicator of malicious activity, and then it usually is an example of malicious activity that can lead to an application attack. So we also have cryptographic attacks. So what are the indicators of what are malicious activities that can indicate a cryptographic attack? Is downgrade. So this is downgrade is talking about downgrading, making use of a lesser security. For instance, if you have a version of some code, and the instead of using a higher version, the version of code is being downgraded. You are being forced to use a code that is not as high in quality as the one that is available. For example, if you are running an application, or you are running an encryption, and you have an encryption that can secure better than another one, and then you are being forced to use the one with the lower security, then that is downgrading. That means you are downgrading the versions. So it's common with cryptographic attacks, or is an indication of a cryptographic attack. Then we have collision, which means two encryptions. Encryption, if you encrypt a particular data, it's not supposed to, and if you encrypt two data, they are not supposed to have the same output. So collision happens when two different data are having the same output when after encryption. So it means the value is colliding. So then birthday attack is also is based on the birthday uh, principle in mathematics, or the birthday theory in mathematics, whereby what is the percentage, or what is the probability that two persons in a room will have the same birthday. So this happens in cryptographic attack when you are hashing or you are encrypting. What is the probability that two separate data will have collision? So this is a birthday. So the cryptographic attacks, birthday, when you are encrypting data and you are having collisions, often is an indication of malicious activity going on. So which is a pointer to cryptographic attacks. So then we have password attack, we have password spraying, brute forcing. Spraying particularly is using when you use a particular username and you're trying different password. That is spraying. Brute forcing means you are combining different usernames and different passwords. You are trying severally in that way. That is brute forcing. So these are all indicators of malicious activities which lead to password attack. Then we have in the other indicators includes account lockout, concurrent session usage, blocked content. These are all indicators of malicious activity. Impossible travel. Impossible travel means that people logging in from two extreme geographical locations. For example, if someone logs into your account and the person appears to be logging in from somewhere in the US, and at the same time, maybe a few minutes later, someone else is logging in China or in Australia, the gap is too much. So it's not possible for someone to just travel from US and gets to Australia or China within a few minutes. So when you have impossible travel distances in login, the location of login then is an indicator that malicious activity is going on. Then we have resource consumption, which means more resources are being used than expected. For instance, if you are on your laptop and you are using a notepad and you discover that the notepad is consuming a very high amount of system resource. When you look at what a notepad is supposed to be consuming, it's supposed to be small, but a notepad with a few things running on it is consuming almost maybe 90% of the CPU resource. Then that's an indicator that a malicious activity is going on. Then we'll have resource inaccessibility, being unable to access resource, out of cycle logging, when logging are incoherent, published or documented, and then we have missing logs. These are all indicators that the malicious activity is going on within your system.